Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending our latest Next Masterclass. Build once, deploy many. Laying the foundation for omnichannel AI at scale, presented by Aktana. My name is Dario Šafarić, the chairman of Next Pharma, and your masterclass host. We have some incredible speakers joining us today from Biogen, Gene, Leo Pharma, and Novartis, all of whom are ready to share their first-hand experiences building and managing successful AI programs. Before we jump in, here are some tips to help you to get the most out of your masterclass experience. We encourage you to use the stage chat to share insights or ask questions while today's sessions are happening. And we will do our best to address every question in the Q&A portion. Following each session, our Aktana speakers will be available for a short time in the Ask the Expert booth, which you can access on the sidebar to the left. To speak to anyone one-on-one, you can use the direct message function on the top right of your screen. If you have any technical difficulties, please try logging back in or refreshing the page. And if you miss any session, don't worry, they will be available in the replay section of the sidebar during the masterclass, and we will also be emailed to you once the event has concluded. Without further delay, I'm delighted to hand things over to Choy, the co-founder and president of Aktana, who will start things off with a keynote address. Derek, over to you.
Thank you, Dario, and thank you, Next Pharma, for hosting this event. Hi everyone, my name is Derek, and I'm co-founder and president at Aktana. I'm so excited to be here today and to be joined by thought leaders from the industry. We're going to be sharing first-hand experiences and perspectives on how to implement and manage AI programs that are designed to scale. I'm sure you would all agree, it's been an amazing time to be part of this industry. There's so much rapid change and innovation happening every day. And in some ways, it feels like this shift to omnichannel AI all happened overnight. But we all know this is a result of trends we've been living for some years now. And it's tempered because there's been this past desire to minimize disruption, but it's recently been accelerated in the aftermath of COVID. And now we're in 2022, and we're so excited to see that this industry is ready to embrace personalized engagement with physicians across every channel powered by intelligence. Coming out of COVID, we saw customers finally embrace digital interactions. 61% of meetings were held virtually in 2021, and that's compared to just 36% pre-COVID. And while this was initially out of necessity, it's now become a strategic priority to engage with physicians in these new ways. In 2021, a survey found that 82% of pharma execs agree digitization of operations is going to continue post-COVID. And this is really just a recognition that there's a smarter way to engage with customers, a way that respects their availability and meets their evolving preferences. And physicians agree, 84% believe content is more relevant now than before COVID. At Aktana, we saw a 45% increase in the number of omnichannel actions in 2021. And these were more broad-reaching than ever, impacting over 700,000 physicians. And this year, we're seeing this grow exponentially. Almost all our discussions and plans with customers include omnichannel elements. As a result of both maturity and necessity, we've also seen this shift from pilots and POCs at just the largest and most sophisticated markets to scaling multi-country and multi-brand, and also increasing adoption at smaller pharma and medical device companies as well. As an example, back in 2015, the typical rollout started with one brand in one country, and it took 4 years to cover most brands and the top 10 markets. But in 2022, we're helping one customer expand their AI program to 46 countries, and another is getting started with a deployment across 6 therapeutic areas and 12 brands all at once. In fact, 43% of our deployments in 2021 were multi-region. And this was the first year that over 50% of our deployments included smaller markets at program launch rather than later in the rollout. In addition to increasing investments in data and AI, the industry is also investing in internal analytic capabilities. Almost all our top 30 pharma companies are hiring data scientists and advanced analytic talent to develop their own differentiated models and assets. And they're upskilling business and operational teams so they can better manage intelligence programs at scale. At Aktana, we've been fortunate to have been partnering with some of the most forward-looking life science companies to both pioneer and to deploy intelligence solutions over the last 10 years. And we've catalyzed and lived through a lot of this change. And there's been a lot of lessons that we've learned the hard way as well. One of the earliest lessons we learned as a company was the importance of building trust through transparency and respect. Over 10 years ago, our first deployment was to support the field with intelligence, and it failed because we were telling reps what to do. We weren't earning their trust, and we weren't respecting the unique knowledge that they have of their territories or real-life practical constraints. We learned the hard way that to have any real adoption of AI, and as a result, any real impact, we need to be extremely transparent, giving specific reasons why, supporting data, convincing people to take action. We need to ensure recommendations feel right by considering and respecting the same constraints and realities that these decision makers themselves think about, like their schedules, their required drive times, their planned vacations. And we need to make it easy to adopt by aligning with how they work, providing real-time and in-workflow recommendations that are easier to use than to ignore. Another important lesson that we've learned is that it's really hard to scale AI programs. And if you don't focus on the right things up front, it can actually be complex, workflow intensive, and even cost prohibitive to be able to move from single deployments to wide-scale adoption. And it was probably about 3 years ago when we started seeing early adopters really want to move beyond deployment of AI from those handful of brands and markets to start to really plan deployments across all the top markets and across multiple brands. And we saw that when you're deploying intelligence for just a handful of markets, it's easy to tailor data integrations, use cases, journeys, machine learning to the bespoke needs of the market. And this leads to impact. But then if you want to do the same thing at scale across multiple markets and brands, that time and effort to apply the same approach can be a showstopper. So what you really need to do is, firstly, prioritize upfront the right foundational data and system integrations at the right global or regional levels, so infrastructure doesn't become a barrier to scaling later. You also need to recognize the value of common components, which can then be set up at therapeutic area or global or regional levels, and then cascaded down to individual markets, so the right level of tailoring still makes sense and feels right to the business. And you also need to differentiate between what we actually need to localize, things like models around physician value or patient trends, versus what likely doesn't need to be localized, like infrastructure, general machine learning models, or best practices driven sales and event management priorities. So let's talk about the last lesson learned. It's something we learned in the aftermath of COVID-19. We saw more customers actually start to orchestrate campaigns across every channel, including the field. In our first couple of deployments, we were capturing some of these campaigns, which included both non-personal and personal actions in existing marketing automation tools and processes. And what we found was, it just was really challenging to use existing campaign tools that weren't designed to accommodate field actions, where independent decision makers actually have agency to decide whether to take or to alter a recommended action. And when we're trying to design workarounds to manage this added complexity, it added a lot of effort. And we also saw it's just too easy for the program to fall into a trap of designing a proliferation of campaigns with really complex logic. And this is then both too complex and too costly to maintain and update, but also too rigid to allow AI to play any meaningful role to shape the journey. And so what we learned was the importance of choosing, and in our case developing, easy to use tools to manage truly omnichannel customer journeys and campaigns, with support for branching logic where decision makers like reps choose to act or to not act, and finding the right balance between defining strategy as campaigns, specified to the nth degree of specification, versus defining strategy as objectives, constraints, and higher level journeys, which then give agency for machine learning models to make decisions within a defined space. So as we as a life science industry continue to deploy omnichannel intelligence at even greater scale, I want to share some ways you can model your approach to be more future ready. Firstly, it's about balancing strategy and AI. Plan for how your intelligence solution is going to support that right mix of campaigns, rules, and machine learning. And you have to do this in a way that supports you both when you're beginning your journey, most likely with less confidence in AI and more reliance on campaigns and rules, but also as you begin to mature and rely more on AI once the quality and the confidence of the machine learning models grow. It's also really important to be focused on transparency to build trust and drive adoption. We have to plan to make every step of intelligence clear, because all AI is inherently lending itself to be deemed opaque or black box, if only because the models are advanced and it's just difficult to understand the technology. So to overcome this, we need extreme transparency into everything from what strategies are configured, to what goals, constraints, or assumptions are set, to how we set expected value functions. You also need to be able to explain why specific recommendations are made, both to individual users, but also at a system level, around what's influencing decisions, so you build trust and confidence that the right actions are being taken. In addition, if you have simulation and you can compare scenarios, then you're going to be able to help people understand the likely impact of the changes that they're going to make before they make those changes. So finally, architecting for modularity and openness is really important to ensure future scalability, but also so that we can connect to an evolving and ever-changing data and system integration landscape, because this ecosystem is inevitably going to evolve over the next few years, especially because of the rapid innovation in this space. In the rest of today's masterclass, we're going to dive even deeper into a couple of the areas I've just previewed. You're going to learn how to start regardless of the quality, integrity, and location of your data, how to build in global efficiency while also accounting for regional nuances, how to establish a regional governance model for your AI, and also how to create a framework that works with the unique data needs of every market. In addition, we're going to get even more perspectives from your peers, and we're going to share that during a customer roundtable closing out the class. So thank you for joining us. Really looking forward to diving into this and hearing from our thought leaders after the short break. Over to you, Dario.